Okay, today I'm going to be working on treating, curing and preventing disease. This is the key topic in biology, and it's got many, it's quite a big topic. It's got many different branches. So one of the branches is vaccination. And vaccination was first proposed, I think in 1796 by Edward Jenner, I think. Obviously quite a long time ago, but it basically consists of using a dead or altered form of a pathogen, which is then placed into the human body via a needle. I have to say, I do not like vaccinations personally, however they work really, really well. Well, the ones that don't have huge side effects. But basically, what this does is it allows your body to recognise the antigens which are found on specific pathogens, and it essentially allows your memory cells, which are just a form of white blood cell, to remember the antigens and to create antibodies. In order to combat the antigens. They sort of have a war.
Of course, you know this means war.
And well, no, actually, that's not really right. But essentially, the antibodies bind to the antigens, and they bind to the antigens, and then they allow for these other white blood cells to come and basically eat them, which is a process called phagocytosis. But essentially, the vaccination, it allows your memory cells to remember the antibodies, but they still don't produce very many the first time, which is why vaccination is so important. So if we kind of look at it like a kind of graph with time and number of antibodies, so when you first, let's say you get vaccinated here, you'll produce a small amount of antibodies. That's the first vaccination. But then if you get infected, let's say, your body might produce like a few antibodies kind of slowly. But then if your body then gets infected, let's say here, that's the infection, then the number of antibodies will rise significantly. So you see it's much, much higher than there and there. And that's basically the point of a vaccination, is to kind of make sure that the next time you receive that, not dead or not altered form of the pathogen, then you'll be able to produce antibodies. Now, the whole point of vaccination is to create something called herd immunity. And herd immunity, it was quite a term that was kind of thrown around during the COVID era, but it's very, very important in terms of vaccination. What it essentially is when there's enough of the population that there are small percentage aren't vaccinated, enough are vaccinated, that an outbreak can't occur. I don't know if that's the proper definition, but that's the one I'm going to use because I'm cool. So it's when enough of a population, I'm just going to shorten it to pop, are vaccinated that even though some aren't, an outbreak cannot is unlikely to occur. Because of course, if you still got all of the non-vaccinated people in a room, there is a chance that it might occur. Now, there's 3 stages to herd immunity. Stage number 1 is, so let's just kind of do this like, stage number 1 is most of the population aren't vaccinated. Obviously, disease spreads quickly. Yeah, basically, it's not very good. Infection will spread very ill. Most people, but yeah, many people are also ill. Oh no, a few people are really contagious. A few are ill / contagious. So leading to infection and disease, basically. So yeah, when not a lot of the population are vaccinated, they only produce this many antibodies when they actually need to produce this many, which yeah, essentially means that yeah, infection and disease will occur. And then this leads to, eventually, you start to cotton on to the fact that basically probably not vaccinating yourself isn't a great way to stay alive, but still, most of the population aren't vaccinated. But like, let's change this probably to the majority. Because now slightly more people are vaccinated. Aren't vaccinated. So that most aren't vaccinated against the spreading of disease, but are well. That's probably a key one. But are well. Some are vaccinated and healthy, and a very few are vaccinated but not ill. So disease can still spread, but probably at slightly lower rates, and there'll be less infection. A few are vaccinated, and very few are unwell. Sorry, I can't spell well. This leads to less infection / disease. Okay, now the final stage, probably move this somewhere like here. Final stage, point number 3 is the majority of the population are vaccinated against specific bacteria. The majority are vaccinated against specific bacteria. So yeah, very few aren't vaccinated, and few are contagious, but the majority. But yeah, basically, so yeah, vaccinated, a few are contagious, but the non-vaccinated, but the I'm just going to call them vax instead of vaccinated, are protected. So it's almost impossible for an outbreak to occur at this stage. I guess what this kind of looks like is, I'll probably grab some more pens here, some whiteboard highlighters. So we'll have contagious is red, vaccinated is green, and just kind of normal people, healthy people are blue. So if you can imagine, like, there might be that many people contagious in a population who are pretty much fully vaccinated, and then there'll be all of these little green dots. So most people are vaccinated, and then a few kind of blue dots scattered in there. You see that kind of most of the time, the red dots aren't coming into contact with the blue dots, and they're mostly coming into contact with green dots, and there's very few times they come into contact with other red dots. So basically the disease is what I would call contained. So like in a little box, it is contained. And it won't spread to other containers, whereas if you look at something like stage 1, where almost none are vaccinated, it kind of looks exactly the opposite. There's lots of red low. And very few vaccinated people, which basically is kind of useless. This is what you want, this is what you really don't want in terms of herd immunity, because this protects the population while this protects the individual. That's probably about it. Yeah, so for vaccination and for herd immunity, which come under this topic, probably all you need to know.